The Secret Life of Walter Mitty stars Ben Stiller, Kristen Wiig, Shirley MacLaine, Sean Penn and Adam Scott. It's a loosely based adaptation of the 1939 short story by James Thurber and the 1947 Danny Kaye film of the same title. The film itself was somewhat in development hell apparently over the last couple of years, with originally Ron Howard and then Steven Spielberg slated to direct. I think at one point Jim Carrey was actually going to be in the title role as well, but all of these dropped out over the years due to, I suppose, kind of schedule conflicts and, licensing agreements, all that kind of thing. So it's fallen to Ben Stiller to direct the movie. First things first, the film itself tells the tale of Walter Mitty, who's a very ordinary guy. He works for Life magazine and he works in the photography department, looking at negatives which are sent in by photographers. The crux of the story here is that Sean O'Connell, who's played by Sean Penn, sends him a batch of photographs, and there's one photograph, number 25, in particular, which he wants for the cover of the very last edition of Life magazine. So it's up to Ben Stiller to, work through and I suppose kind of, go from the negative to, having it published on the magazine. Life, when we're introduced to the character, first and foremost, he's leaving his apartment. Everything is very washed out. It's blues, it's whites. There's very little colour in his life. He spends his time daydreaming. There's some very vivid daydreams where, he's a mountain climber. There's another daydream where he dives into a burning building and saves a dog. I suppose some people have said that some of his fantasies seem to be quite normal and quite ordinary, but that is the crux of the whole thing. He's quite an ordinary and normal guy. He's just looking for the push to make him somewhat extraordinary. The film then follows on with Walter going on a global mission to track down Sean O'Connell, who's played by Sean Penn, the photographer. So he has to go to Iceland, he goes to Greenland, he ends up in Yemen and Afghanistan, all these places around the world. And let me just say that this is one of the best looking films I've seen all year. It is absolutely stunning. The visuals are amazing, the locations are fantastic. The soundtrack blends beautifully with the images. There's a number of really high and well-regarded indie artists here, like Arcade Fire. There's of Monsters and Men, who you'll recall from, did the song for the trailer. I think the song is called Dirty Paws, but it's beautifully fit into the movie. And there's David Bowie has even lent one of his songs, Space Oddity, which is actually one of my favourite scenes of the film, where Kristen Wiig's character is playing guitar and she's singing. She's explained what Space Oddity means to Walter Mitty in terms of it being about a guy who, is sort of going beyond the bounds of what he's capable of. And she's singing it and he's listening, and it's a beautiful moment. I'm not going to spoil it. It is one of the best looking films you'll see all year. Ben Stiller is brilliant in the title role. He's obviously directed it as well, but he's excellent in the title role as a very, I suppose, kind of, he's a very ordinary kind of guy, but you do sense under the surface that there is something extraordinary about him. The movie itself seems to be somewhat divided into two parts. We have the first initial part where he spends his time zoning out, as his mother calls it, and daydreaming and trying to, I suppose, kind of juggle the responsibilities of his job with his home life, and his mother is moving into a home and he's looking after her as well in conjunction with his sister, who seems to be a bit flaky. And then the latter part of the film where the daydreams go. As his character becomes more adventurous and he goes on more adventures and he actually starts living the fantasies that he fantasizes about, the daydreams stop and his real life actually mirrors the fantasies to a much greater extent. The locations which are used, as I said, go from Iceland to Greenland, Afghanistan, Yemen, are beautiful, and the people he meets, he engages in different sorts of rituals, and he plays football in Afghanistan with these locals, and are at the foot of the Himalayas. It's all beautifully done. A number of people have sort of given very mixed opinions about The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. When I saw the trailer earlier on during the year, I put it up on my Facebook page and I put a link to it, basically saying to people, look, this is looking amazing, it's looking beautiful. It's the kind of film which, I love Ben Stiller, and going back a couple of years, Zoolander was one of my favourite comedies of all time, and I always find Ben Stiller very watchable. He's done a beautiful job with direction here. There's one or two problems with the film, I think, but they're overall, the good stuff outweighs it. There's a number of characters which I don't particularly like. Adam Scott plays the evil boss, or the managing director of the transition of Life magazine as it's closing down. He's got this ridiculous beard. He's a very caricatured villain. He's given no depth really, and he's thoroughly unlikable. It's very hard to believe that a guy like him would be in such a position of power. The management within Life magazine as well, I suppose there's two guys who are sort of, you know, his sidekicks. It's very hard to believe that they would actually be given any sort of positions of power within such a high profile magazine or high profile company. On top of that then, there is sort of the resolution, you know, at the end of the film, which is somewhat cliched, but it's, you know, I mean, I don't want to say you've good cliches and bad cliches, but you know, it's done in such a way which is quite satisfying. And I think overall, like, you know, it does, you know, the good things in this movie outweigh the bad things. I think Ben Stiller's done an amazing job with this. I mean, visually, this is an absolutely beautiful film. I honestly, as we come to the end of 2013, and as I've been looking through my top 10 of the year, which I'm going to do a video on shortly, I've been trying to come to terms with the movies I've seen in the last 12 months and trying to think of movies which I've seen which look better. Now, there's some movies which I think look amazing, but I honestly genuinely think that this movie is the best looking film I've seen all year. The locations, the landscapes, how the characters fit into those. I suppose, you know, Ben Stiller initially, you know, as he opens up the film with this beautiful opening credit sequence where the credits are sort of, you know, formed on the roads and the walls of the buildings. It's beautifully, and it's beautifully done. It's very stylistic, and it fits the tone of the film quite perfectly. The color palette used as well, I thought was beautiful. It was very washed out to start, lots of blues and whites and greys, and as his character becomes more adventurous, it opens up to, you know, beautiful, you know, sunsets and, you know, clouds and, you know, rolling thunder and different things which are sort of mirroring his character's development. Overall, the film was fantastic. I would definitely urge you to see this. It's one of the best films I've seen towards the latter part of this year. It's one that's certainly the best looking film I've seen all year. Kudos to Ben Stiller. He's crafted a fantastic film here and certainly gets 2 thumbs up from me. So this is Bill with FilmHook. I'll check you out next time with another vid. Until then, please subscribe if you like what you see, and I'll check you out next time, okay? Take care. Bye.